Begin the Gemara today on Daf Tes. We're at the top of Daf Tes, where it says, Udumaisifim Mechail al Kaidish. 4 lines from the top. The Gemara brought up before that there would be a svara to say regarding Yovel that you add 10 days to Yovel after the year of Yovel going into the next year. And the Brisa said, or the Gemara said, it's a Brisa, it said that the reason is, just like you find this concept of Mesifin Mechail ala Kaidish, that you add from the weekday to the Kaidish. This is regarding Shemitah. You find the concept of Mesif Mechail ala Kaidish. Regarding Shabbos, Yontif, Yom Kippur, you're supposed to add from the weekday to the holy day. So the Gemara here brings the source of this concept. Or the Mesifin Mechail al Kaidish minala. From where do I see this concept that you add from Chayil to Kaidish? The Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, there's a pasuk that says, Bachorish u'bakotzer tishpais, that you should refrain from plowing and from reaping. So the question is, this pasuk in the simple pshat is actually speaking about Shabbos. Sheshes yomim tavei, devayem shvi tishbais, b'charash u'bakotzer tishbais. But the question is, how could this be speaking about Shabbos? On Shabbos, there's the lamed tes malachas, leisasa malacha, which we learn out from the Mishnah not to do any of the 39 malachas. So why is the Torah spelling out specifically chorish and kotzer? So according to, there's going to be 2 pshatim here. According to Rabbi Kiva, even though it's speaking about Shabbos in the beginning of the pasuk, but the end of the pasuk, when it says b'charish u'b'kotzer tishbais, it goes on Shemitah. So Rabbi Kiva says, Ein etzarech loyma charish v'kotzer. Now regarding Shemitah, it wasn't necessary for the Torah to say not to plow and not to reap. Shel shvius from the Shemitah itself. Sharei ksiv, sharei kvar nema, that is, because in another pasuk it says Satcha leisizra, and it says v'charmacha leisizma. So it says already in another pasuk that you're not allowed to do any work in the field on Shemitah. So why is this pasuk saying again b'charish u'b'kotzer tishbais? Ella. So therefore Rabbi Kiva says what we learn out from here is charish shel erev shvius hanichnas l'shvius. It's telling me that already in erev Shemitah, in the month of Elul, you're not allowed to plow for your field for the purpose of Shemitah. If you're plowing the field in order to prepare it for the next year of Shemitah, so then you're not allowed to do this already on erev Shemitah. And also kotzer shel shvius, hayotze lematze shvius. If you have what grew in Shemitah and it comes out in the end of Shemitah, if a third of this grew in Shemitah, so then if you're reaping it after Shemitah, so it's going to have all the halachas of Shemitah, the kedusha of Shemitah. Taisva says this is talking about sfichim. You're not allowed to plant during Shemitah by hand. Go ahead and plant. But we're talking about things that grew on their own. They grew on Shemitah on their own, which is what's called sfichim. And then, if it grew a third in Shemitah, so then matzah Shemitah, when you come to cut it, you have to treat it like Shemitah food. All the halachas of Shemitah apply. So therefore, from here you see the concept of Meisif Mechail HaKodesh before Shemitah and after Shemitah. So that's Rabbi Kiva. So we have the source for this concept of Meisif Mechail HaKodesh regarding Shemitah. Rabbi Shmuel, he teaches this pasuk, B'charish u'b'kotzer tishbais, that it actually does go on Shabbos. It doesn't go on Shemitah. And he says as follows, Ma chorish rishus. When the Torah is saying that you should not plow on Shabbos, so the reason why it spells out specifically plowing is because plowing is something which is a rishus. You're plowing for your own personal needs. There is no plowing for the purpose of a mitzvah. There's no such a thing. So therefore, when the Torah speaks about not plowing on Shabbos, it's referring to something which is rishus. Af kotzer rishus. So too, when the pasuk says kotzer, that you're not allowed to reap on Shabbos, it refers to something which is a rishus, which is you're doing it for your own personal sake. Which now, what's the Torah saying this for? Yotza ksir ha'omer shu mitzvah. It comes to exclude cutting the omer. So if it came out on a Shabbos and you have to cut the omer the night before you bring the carbon omer, and it's supposed to be cut according to Rabbi Shmuel, it's supposed to be cut the night before. So if it came out on Shabbos, because the purpose of your cutting for the omer is for a mitzvah, shehu mitzvah, it's allowed to be done on Shabbos. So Rashi explains that the chiddush of Rabbi Shmuel is, even though you might say that you're plowing a field, what's if I'm plowing the field for the purpose of an omer as well, to grow the barley that I need for the carbon omer, so maybe that should be a mitzvah as well. So Rashi says no. By charisha you don't say that, because if you have a field that was already plowed in advance, you don't have to plow it especially for planting the seeds that you're going to use for the omer. So therefore that's not a mitzvah. But by the kotzer, Rabbi Shmuel holds that if you found the barley that's needed for the carbon omer already cut in advance, it's not good. You have to specifically cut it for the omer the night before. So therefore that's a kotzer of the mitzvah, and that is allowed to be done on Shabbos. That's what you learn out from this pasuk. Rabbi Akiva disagrees to this drasha because Rabbi Akiva holds just like the charisha does not have to be done specifically for the Omer, the Ktsir also does not have to be done specifically for the Omer. If you found it already cut in advance, you can use it for the carbon. So what comes out of here? According to Rabbi Akiva, we have a source over here from B'charish B'katze Tishbais for the concept of Meisef Mechayel al HaKodesh by Shemitah. But Rabbi Shmuel, we don't have a source for the concept of Meisef Mechayel al HaKodesh. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel, Mesifim Mechayel al HaKodesh Minalan. According to Rabbi Shmuel, from where do we see this concept of being Meisef from Chayel to Kodesh? So the Gemara brings it that we learn it out by Yom Kippur. Nafkelei Meditanya, there's a Braisa by Yom Kippur where it says, the pasuk says, "Ve'nisim es nafshe seichem b'tisha." You should afflict your soul on the 9th day. Yachel b'tisha. So I would think that this means you have to fast the whole 9th day. Talmud loymar be'erev. The Torah says b'tisha be'erev, that you're fasting in the evening. I be'erev. But if the Torah says be'erev, yachel mishatechshach. So I would think that you only begin fasting the night going into the day of Yom Kippur, but not before that. Talmud loymar b'tisha. So therefore the Torah says b'tisha, that it's already the 9th. You begin to fast on the 9th. So how do you understand this pasuk? Oh, Ketzad, what does this mean? You have to start fast a little bit before Shkia, when it's still daytime. So it's towards the night, that's why it says be'erev, but it also says b'tisha, because you're starting to fast a little bit before Shkia. Lamed, this teaches me, shemisifin mechayel al kodesh, that you add from chayel to kodesh to start fasting before. So here I see that you meisif mechayel al kodesh when the Yom Kippur comes in. When Yom Kippur goes out, how do you know that you have to add over there as well to the fast? Talmud loyma me'erev ad erev, that you're fasting from evening to evening, which means that you continue fasting until the following evening, which is already at night after Yom Kippur. So now, ein li elo Yom Kippur. So from this pasuk I see regarding fasting on Yom Kippur that you have to add from the beginning and at the end. Shabbos is minayin. How do I know that on Shabbos there's also a mitzvah to be meisef mechayel al kodesh in the beginning and at the end? Talmud loymar tishpisu. So the pasuk over there continues and says tishpisu. So that goes even on Shabbos. Yomim tovim minayin. How do I know that this applies to Yom Tov as well? Talmud loymar shabbatchem. The pasuk there says tishpisu shabbatchem, which goes even on a Yom Tov. Oh, Ketzad. So what does this mean? Kol makom sheyesh bo shvus. Any time where the Torah says that you should rest. Mesifin mechayel al kodesh. You add from chayel to kodesh, and that includes also Shemitah, when the Torah tells you to rest from working in the field.
This word of Shabbat means it's extra words.
Exactly, because it's extra words. I learn out it goes on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. The Rabbi Akiva, not coming back, according to Rabbi Akiva, Hayvi nisim es nafshe seichem betisha mai avitle. What does he learn out from this pasuk of Vinisim es nafshe seichem? Because according to Rabbi Akiva, the idea of being meisef mechayel al kodesh, you learn out from Shemitah. From Shemitah, you learn out that you meisef also on Shabbos and on Yom Tov and on Yom Kippur. So according to Rabbi Akiva, you don't need this pasuk to teach me to be meisef mechayel al kodesh regarding Yom Kippur. So what does he learn out from this pasuk when it says that you begin fasting on Betisha? What is it? You don't fast on Tisha. So what is it? Why is the Torah saying that? My avitle. The Tani Chiyeh barav midifti. The Tani Chiyeh barav midifti. He said that you learn out as follows: Ve'is nisam es nafshe seichem batisha, that you should afflict your soul on the 9th day. V'chi batisha mesanin. Do you fast on the 9th day of Tishrei? Va'ale basirim mesanin. Yeah, you fast on Yud. Elolei melacha. The pasuk is coming to tell you. Kol ha'oichol v'sheise b'tshi. A person that eats and drinks on the 9th day. Maila olav akasev. The Torah considers it ki'ilu hisane chi ve'asiri. So then if he eats on the 9th day and then he fasts on the 10th day, the Torah considers it, the eating, to be as if he fasted on both the 9th and the 10th day. That's why the Torah says, Betisha, to be meramis to you, that it's not only a mitzvah to eat, but that the schar for the eating will be as much as you get the schar for fasting. What's harder, to eat or to fast? The fast is much harder. So you would think you get more schar for fasting on the 10th day than the schar you get for eating on the 9th day. So therefore the Torah is saying that no, for the eating on the 9th day, it's considered as if you fasted and you get the same kind of schar like when you fast on the 10th day. Tana Rabbanon, coming back now to Yovel. The Gemara doesn't bring. Tana Rabbanon, we learned in the Braisa. It says in the pasuk, Yovel he. This is Yovel. So what do we learn from here? Afal pi shaloi shamtu. even if they did not let go from the fields. What happens in Yovel? There are three halachas in Yovel. Yovel is like a regular shemitah. You're not allowed to work in the field. Then in addition, Yovel, you have to let go from all the fields that you bought and you have to return it to the original owner. Then there's the halach of sending back the slaves, sending them free. Those are the three things of Yovel. So the Braisa says, Afal pi sheloi shamtu, even if you did not let go of the fields that you bought, and Afal pi sheloi taku, and even if you didn't blow the shofar, as it says in the pasuk that in Yom Kippur you blow the shofar, so even if you didn't do these two things, nevertheless, the Isser of Yovel, which is like Shemitah, that you're not allowed to work in your field, will take effect automatically, even if you didn't do the other two parts of Yovel, of letting your fields go and blowing shofar. Yachayil, but I would think, even if you didn't let the slaves go, that the Yovel takes effect and you're not allowed to work in the field, Talmud loymar hi. The Torah says, Yovel, he. By adding he, the word he is a miyut to say that the Isser of working in the field only takes effect if you send the slaves free. If you don't let the slaves go free, then the Isser of Yovel of working in the field does not take effect. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yosi says, when it says in the Torah, Yovel he, Afal pi sheloi shamtu, even if you didn't return the fields that you bought, and Afal pi sheloi shalchu, even if you didn't allow the slaves to go free, the Isser of working in your fields on Yovel takes effect. Yachayil, and I would think, Afal pi sheloi taku, even if you didn't blow the shofar, that the Isser of Shemitah that's on Yovel takes effect. Talmud loymar he. The word he is excluding and saying that it's only if you blew the shofar. So basically we have here a machlekes. What is going to hold back the Isser of taking effect? Rabbi Yehuda says only if you let the slaves go free, otherwise it doesn't take effect. And Rabbi Yosi says only if you blew the shofar. And they both learn it out from the word he, which is an exclusion. They're saying dafke then. So the Gemara will now explain the machlekes of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosi. I have over here a lashon in the pasuk which is coming to be marbe. It says yovel. It's extra words. Yovel he. Yovel. It is yovel. So the word yovel says that it takes effect. And then umikra echad mamet. And then when the Torah adds the word he, it's coming to exclude and to say that it's contingent upon something. That there's something you have to do in order for it to take effect. So why, according to Rabbi Yosi, do I say that Yovel he, that it's going to be Yovel, and I'm marbet that it is Yovel, afal pi sheloi shalchu, even if you didn't send away the slaves. And but ve'ein Yovel, but the Yovel will not take effect, elem kein taku, only if you blow shofar. Why do I say it in this way? Maybe say it in the reverse. How do you know what to be marbe and what to be memayeh? So the Gemara gives two pshatim. One pshat is lefi she'ef shel ha'olam. It's possible in the world that Yovel should arrive and there are no avadim to send out free. It's possible that there is no evidivity that exists in the world and there's no one to send free. But it's impossible that Yovel arrives and there is no shofar to be found anywhere to blow a shofar. There must be a shofar somewhere. So therefore, if the Torah is saying a miyut that the Yovel taking effect is dependent on something, it makes sense to say that it's going to be dependent on something that we know for sure that it exists, which is a shofar. Whereas avodim, to send out an eved, lav dafka an eved even exists. So therefore, you can't say that it's dependent on that. Davar acher, another pshat, zu misura lebezdin. Blowing the shofar is something that the bezdin does, or the shliach of a bezdin, Rashi says, blows the shofar. Sending the slaves free is not in the hands of the bezdin, that's in the hands of the master. Every individual that owns an eved has to allow his eved to go free. So therefore it makes sense to say that the Torah is saying that the Yovel should take effect is dependent on something which is in the hands of the bezdin. And it's not going to be dependent on something which is in the hands of an individual that might refuse to do it, and because of him, the whole Yovel is not going to take effect. So therefore that doesn't make sense. So the Gemara explains why are we bringing a second shot. If you're going to argue and say, just like you're saying it's impossible for the world to be without a shofar somewhere, it's also impossible that when it comes Yovel, that there shouldn't be somewhere in the end of the world a person that has an evet to send to go free. There has to be an evet somewhere. As we'll see soon, the Gemara will say that when it comes Yovel, the freeing of the slaves is not only in Eretz Yisrael. The halachas of Yovel that apply to the land, that's only in Eretz Yisrael. But the halacha of freeing a slave, that's all over in the world. So therefore it's impossible that somewhere in the world there isn't an avidivity that has to be sent free. So therefore, you can't give that reason that there's for sure a shayfer, but there might not be an eved. No, it's impossible. Somewhere in the world there has to be a eved. So therefore, we give a different reason. Zu mesura lebezdin, v'zu eini mesura lebezdin. The shayfer is done by the bezdin, so therefore the yovel is dependent on that. And sending a evet free is not in the hands of the bezdin, so we can't say that the whole yovel is dependent on that. So this explained the way Rabbi Yossi learns the pasuk. So the Gemara comes to Rabbi Yehuda. Bishleim Rabbi Yossi k'tekama taimi. So we understand according to Rabbi Yossi, as we just explained, the reason of Rabbi Yossi. Ela Rabbi Yehuda my time, but according to Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. Rabbi Yehuda says that yovel is dependent on sending out the avodim free. That's when the yovel takes effect, and it's not dependent on blowing the shofar. So why does Rabbi Yehuda say the opposite? So the answer is Amakra, because right before this, right before it says Yovel he, it says in the pasuk Ukrasem droyer ba'aretz, that you should call freedom in the land. Ukesavar, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda holds Mikra nidresh lefanov, the miyut of he, that's saying that in order for Yovel to take effect, it's dependent on something happening. We darshan that to go on what the pasuk said right before, when it says Ukrasem droyer ba'aretz, that you should allow the slaves to go free. V'loi lifnei fanav, and it does not go on blowing the shofar, which is written in the previous pasuk. Before it said that you allow the slaves to go free, not right before, but lifnei fanav. We're not going to connect this miyut to what it says two psukim before. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says that we connect it to the pasuk right before. Now the Gemara adds and explains this concept here of droyer, krosem droyer ba'aretz. It means that you allow the slaves to go free. The kula alma, everybody agrees, droyer loshen chayres. The word droyer means freedom. You should call freedom in the land. My mashma, what's the meaning of the word droyer? That it means freedom. The Tanya we learned in the Braise, ein droyer ela loshen chayres. The word droyer means freedom. Why? Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, ma loshen droyer. What does the word droyer mean? Kimedayer bei daira. Droyer means a person that lives in whichever place he wants. So one day he lives here, another day he lives somewhere else. A person that goes around and he lives in different places. Umayvul schayre b'chol medina. And he brings his merchandise from one place to another, and he's like a merchant that goes from one place to another. In other words, this is an individual that's free. He could live wherever he wants. One day he lives here, one day he lives there, he goes around. We just brought the Braise, and we had the two opinions of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, whether Shmit or the Yovel it is, whether Yovel is dependent on blowing shofar, or for the Yovel to take effect, whether it's dependent on the fact that you're freeing the slaves. Chacham's opinion is Shloshtan ma'akvais boy, that you have to have everything is ma'akev over here, which means not only you have to have blowing shofar, you have to free the slaves, and you have to return the fields that you bought to the seller. Only when those three things are done, then the isser of working in the field of Yovel takes effect. All three. Kasavri, so the Chachamim hold Mikra Nidresh Lefanav, when it says Yovel he, so we dash in this, that it goes in what it says right before, that you have to free the slaves. V'liftnei fanav, and it also goes on two psukim on before, where it says that you have to blow the shofar. Ula achrov, and we also connect it to what it says afterwards in the pasuk, where it says that you have to return the fields. So it goes on all three things, and only then does it take effect. Frag the Gemara, but v'haksiv yovel. Before, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi both said that when the Torah writes the word yovel, that's a ribuy. That's coming to say that the yovel takes effect even if you don't have all the conditions. So according to the Rabbanon, what are we being marbe from the extra word yovel? So the Gemara answers, Hahu da'afile b'chutz ha'aretz. The Torah is coming to tell you that this chiyuv to free your slaves is not only in Eretz Yisrael. Freeing the slaves is all over, even in chutz ha'aretz. Fragt the Gemara, but v'aksiv ba'aretz. It says there in the pasuk that yovel is only in Eretz Yisrael. And for the Gemara, Hahu bizman shenoyig drar ba'aretz. What it's saying is that in the time when you have to free the slaves in Eretz Yisrael, noyig b'chutz ha'aretz. Then you have yovel in chutz ha'aretz. When there's no Yovel in Eretz Yisrael, for example now, when there's no Yovel in Eretz Yisrael, why is there no Yovel in Eretz Yisrael? Because one of the conditions for Yovel in Eretz Yisrael is you have to have Kol Yishvei Aleh. All of Klal Yisrael has to be in Eretz Yisrael together. So from the time, there's a machlokes about this, according to some Rishonim, or most Rishonim, from the time when the 10 Shvatim were expelled from Eretz Yisrael, during the first Beis HaMikdash, there was no more Yovel anymore. because you don't have Kol Yeshvei Olah. Rabbeinu Tam actually holds that even in the second Beis HaMikdash they had Yovel, because Kol Yeshvei Olah doesn't literally mean that you have to have all of Klal Yisrael there. You have to have from all Shvatim. You have to have Yidden from all Shvatim there. And even in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash, there were Yidden from all Shvatim there. So therefore Rabbeinu Tam holds that there was Yovel in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash. But most Rishonim disagree.
And when did it stop?
According to Rabbeinu Tam, after the Churban of the second Beis HaMikdash. So only when there's Yovel in Eretz Yisrael, then there's Yovel in Chutz La'aretz. But if there's no Yovel in Eretz Yisrael, ein noeg b'chutz la'aretz. But again, as I said, this is only referring, when we're saying that there's Yovel in Chutz La'aretz, this is only talking about freeing the slaves. It's not talking about not working in the land. That there's no Yovel in Chutz La'aretz.
How does the person in Southern Eretz Yisrael know what's going on in Eretz Yisrael to do Yovel?
Yeah, okay, to know if they freed and to know if... yeah, okay. WhatsApp, okay.
What's the story? Does it depend?
No, so that's he. Yovel he is not. So Yovel is different. Yovel he, it's totally if you fulfill these three things of sending out the slaves and blowing shofar and returning the lands, then the Yovel takes effect. Shmita is like Shabbos. Shmita is automatically comes the 7th year. You're not allowed to work in the field. Yovel is different though. Yovel, only if you fulfill the other three things that the Torah says about Yovel, then the Isser of planting and in the field and working in the field takes effect. That's what it's saying here.
So, Mr. It's not a mitzvah. You don't have to keep it then.
Well, the Torah is saying that you have to free your slaves, and you have to give back the fields, and you have to blow shofar. When you do that part of the mitzvah, then the other part, the Isser of Yovel, takes effect. Said next thing in the Mishnah, Vilinatiyah. When it comes to a new tree, and there's the halacha of Arla, so 3 years. So from what point do you count 3 years? So it said in the Mishnah, even if you, let's say, planted your tree in off time, when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, Tishrei, it starts a new year. It's already the 2nd year. Minallah, and how do I know that in Rosh Hashanah of Tishrei starts the new year? Chsiv, the pasuk says, Shalosh Shanim Areilim. 3 years, the tree is closed off, you can't have a gnaw from it. So it says Shanim, 3 years. What's the years? Chsiv, Ubashana Revius, and then it says in the 4th year, that you can take it, you can have a nar from it, and you take it to Yerushalayim. So v'yalef shana mitishrei. It says here bashana, and so I learn out the word shana here from the shana that it says by Tishrei. The chsiv meireshis hashana. So just like there, it's speaking about Tishrei here as well. The year starts from Tishrei. V'ligma shana mi Nisan. Why don't I learn out shana here from the word shana that it says regarding Nisan? The chsiv rishnu lechem lachotshei hashana. There it also says shana. So we had already this before. The Gemara says the same answer. Don in shana she'eni mechadashim. I compare the word shana that it says here by Arla, where it does not say the word chadashim with it. Mishana she'eni mechadashim. From the word shana that it says by Tishrei when it does not say chadashim with it. Ve'ein don in shana she'eni mechadashim. Mishana she'eshi mechadashim. And I don't learn out shana that it says by Arla from the word shana that it says by Nisan where it says chadashim with it.